The NFL has some elite quarterbacks and some who are just a meme. Let's go through and explain each team's starter. We start with the reigning MVP runner-up, Lamar Jackson. And as Kevin Harlan famously said a few years back, he is Houdini. Even entering his 8th NFL season, Lamar is absolutely dynamic with the ball in his hands, and over the past couple of years has developed even further as a passer. The 2-time MVP finds himself in that conversation almost every year now, and the last question that remains is whether he and his team can put together a good playoff run and win it all. We go straight from one of the most dynamic QBs to the oldest and most immobile, Aaron Rodgers. At 41 years old, he very likely could be entering the last year of his legendary Hall of Fame career. But just because he's old and can't run like he used to doesn't mean he isn't capable of slicing up a defense. He had a pretty good season last year with the Jets. That's not a sentence which is commonly used. Almost 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. If Rodgers can match or come close to that this year, then the Steelers have a very good shot at the playoffs. How much further they could go than that is another question. Joe Burrow is easily a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, and I could even understand the argument that he's the best. He does have some great help on the outside though. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are incredible receivers that deserve their fair share of credit. But Burrow does everything well. He's accurate, he throws the deep ball, and he even escapes pressure despite his lack of athleticism. Unfortunately, even though Burrow to Chase was the best QB wide receiver connection last year, the Bengals defense let the team down a ton, so they'll need some improvement if they want to make it far in 2025. The Browns have 6, yes that's right, 6 quarterbacks on their roster right now. And the incredible part is that none of them feel like they're steps ahead of the others. For now I'll assume Joe Flacco will start, who's listed on the depth chart as number 1. Since 2010, QB has been more important than ever, but Flacco managed to lock in back in 2013 and win it all. In 2018 he got replaced on the Ravens by Lamar, and since then he's bounced around teams, but nowadays he's not quite the Super Bowl winning magician that he was 12 years ago. Unlike some old QBs though, Flacco is still fun to watch because he doesn't just throw checkdowns. He absolutely hurls the ball up deep, and it's either getting picked off or it's a touchdown. The way the NFL has gone over the past 5 years or so has made the pocket passer a rare and effective role, so Flacco has still enjoyed some success through his old age. Josh Allen is best known for his cannon of an arm. He can make throws that few, if any other quarterbacks can make. While he might not be the best pocket passer of all time, he's certainly one of the best improvisers to ever do it. Once he gets out of the pocket, he's a nightmare for defenses. But just like his fellow elite QBs Lamar and Burrow, the elusive championship is the last goal left. Tua has had a roller coaster career, from the Tank for Tua campaign while he was in college, to basically being a meme as a rookie, to being an MVP frontrunner in the middle of 2023, to plummeting back down to earth in 2024. So that leaves us with a big question mark entering this year. Tua is good at throwing with timing and accuracy, but he definitely struggles with arm strength and athleticism. Justin Fields is a scramble merchant. He might be the straight-up fastest QB in the NFL, and that's helped him lead the Steelers and Bears to some wins throughout his career. He's almost the exact opposite of Tua. Struggles with timing and accuracy, but makes big plays with his arm and legs. Even though he's athletic, he takes way too many sacks, usually from just holding onto the ball for too long. He's entering his 5th season, so it's getting a bit late to expect much drastic improvement from him. The Jets will take anything they can get, though. Entering his 2nd year, Drake Maye is an absolute wild card. I could absolutely see him making a big jump and putting himself in the top 10 QB conversation. I could also see him playing similar to how he did last season, struggling on a roster that might need another year or two to be built up properly. Hyped out of college, Maye's got a big arm and a sneaky good ability to run, and it felt like he started to improve by the end of his rookie season. A wide range of outcomes here, one to keep your eye on through the year. CJ Stroud is coming off a sophomore slump, which is pretty rare for a quarterback. Usually there's a fairly consistent trend of either improvement or stagnation in year 2. But Stroud straight up went from a historic rookie season to an average 2nd year. Luckily he's in a pretty weak division, so he'll have some time to realign. A pocket passing field general, when Stroud is on his A game, he's carving up defenses at the intermediate level and throwing bombs behind the safeties to Tank Dell and Nico Collins. Stroud's looking to reach his full potential, which would make the sky the limit for Houston. Well, I think we all thought this would be Anthony Richardson's job, but his college struggles continued into the NFL, and now the Colts are looking at 17 games of Danny Dimes. Jones is a guy who's been a meme his entire career, though he came pretty close to breaking out of that mold in 2019 and in 2022. I wouldn't get my hopes up if I were a Colts fan, but who knows, maybe this will be another one of those random good years for DJ. Trevor Lawrence was hyped up as one of the greatest QB prospects of all time coming out of Clemson, and he's in no way lived up to those expectations. Although his 2022 and 2023 were pretty good, he's at best been a borderline top 10 quarterback, and his situation on the Jaguars is doing him no favors. The problem here isn't necessarily that he doesn't make big plays, he just offsets them too often by making big mistakes. Double-digit interceptions in every season he's played, and was on pace to match that last season before getting injured. Maybe if the right pieces fall into place around him, he could start to look like a top 10 QB again. But for now, he's average. The first rookie in this video, Cam Ward, was exciting to watch last season at Miami. For every moment that made Hurricane fans scream at their TV, he made up for it with multiple stunning plays. With how bad the Titans were last year and all the other offseason transactions around the league, it feels like Ward's storyline in Tennessee has flown under the radar this summer, but I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out guns blazing and keeps the Titans in some games. I also wouldn't be surprised if he faces some rookie struggles. Mahomes over the last 7 years has been the gold standard for NFL quarterbacks. The past few years, though, he's had to play a lot safer thanks to how defenses have been evolving, so he doesn't quite make as many flashy plays as he did back in his first 3 years as a starter. These days, he mostly just picks defenses apart underneath, which is still pretty effective. With 3 rings and 5 Super Bowl appearances, it is possible that he makes a run at Tom Brady's records, but for now he's just the really good quarterback who happens to sound like Kermit the Frog.
It's something that I've kind of embraced.
Known by many as What If Man, Justin Herbert has had a really good NFL career, but has never quite reached that tippy-top tier of QBs like his division rival has. He's got everything he could ask for: a big arm, accuracy, anticipation, and excellent decision-making. But something just can't click for Herbert to take the Chargers up to win the division and make a deep playoff run. This is where his nickname comes in. People will say things like, if he had a good wide receiver core, if he had a good offensive line, if the Chargers had a good defense, then Herbert would be elite. Maybe there's some truth to that, but we might never find out. Bo Nix is coming off a surprisingly good rookie season. In college, especially in his early years at Auburn, Nix making a run for the Heisman Trophy became a popular meme in the form of a copy pasta. But when he transferred to Oregon, he became much more than a joke and actually made a run at the Heisman. Still, I would say a lot of fans thought the Broncos drafting him was a team desperate for a QB reaching for one. But even if it was, it certainly worked out so far. He protected the ball pretty well for a rookie, made the deep throws, and kept the offense in rhythm. He's proven himself to be at least average, but we'll see how much higher his ceiling is. Geno's another QB with a roller coaster career. From a great college QB and a high draft pick to a lifelong backup, and then a sudden re-emergence as a solid starter back in 2022. For a couple of years, I would say he was above average. He's another one of those guys that's in the old mold of quarterback that just makes decisions faster and better. But last year wasn't as great, and now on the Raiders in a very tough division, this could be a pivotal year for his future. I think I'll always appreciate Geno for...
They wrote me off, I ain't right back though.
Jared Goff is the best example of that old-fashioned pocket passer. When you watch him play, you realize how quickly he fires the ball out of his hands. His clock just works faster than most of the guys in the NFL, which makes him comfortably a top 10 quarterback, leading one of the best teams in the league. And he's doing all that while he looks oddly similar to Ryan Gosling. I wonder if anyone ever mixed the two up while Goff was playing in LA. JJ McCarthy is a huge question mark entering this season. It's his second year, but we haven't seen him healthy in a meaningful game since the College Football National Championship back at the start of 2024. It feels like everyone is placing their hope on him thanks to his good preseason game last year, but at the end of the day, it was just a preseason start, and there were questions when he was drafted about whether he was capable of NFL-level processing. He's another one where I wouldn't be totally shocked if he comes out firing, especially in the good Vikings system and with the help of a great receiver, but realistically my expectations are lower than what we saw from Sam Darnold last year. Jordan Love's an interesting one because I think we were all initially stunned at how good he was in his first year as a starter, especially in that playoff game versus the Cowboys. But perhaps some second-year regression negatively affected the team when it felt like they were on the verge of becoming Super Bowl contenders in the NFC. In 2024, the interceptions remained about the same, but the problem was they just weren't converting on as many big plays. Definitely room for improvement for the young QB. Speaking of room for improvement, Caleb Williams is a quarterback with an unbelievably high ceiling, but he had some severe struggles in his rookie year. He needs to cool down on trying to be the superstar. He'll often scramble around for way too long and find his way into a sack. That might have worked consistently at USC, but in the NFL where pass rushers are quicker, you gotta play more in rhythm. There were some signs of hope last year though, and with a new and exciting offensive-minded head coach, it's more than possible that he breaks out this season. Otherwise, it's time to start sounding alarms in Chicago. Jalen Hurts is the philosopher of the NFL, dropping the most random quotes that you can imagine in press conferences. Aside from that, he's been very successful on the Eagles, and although maybe a tier below guys like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, he was good enough to help a good team win it all last year. I would expect much of the same entering year 6 for Hurts. Jayden Daniels had quite the rookie season last year. In fact, it was the furthest a rookie QB has ever made it in the playoffs. And man, Daniels is an electric athlete, throws an insane deep ball, and just knows how to avoid negative plays by making good decisions and avoiding defenders. The only problem for him is that he set the bar so high it might be tough to match it, especially considering the Washington roster definitely has holes. But if he can build off his rookie season, he can absolutely start to challenge that tier of the Elite Four quarterbacks. Dak's coming off a rough 2024 that ended early due to injury, but he really had an elite 2023 and has consistently been a good NFL QB since his rookie season back in 2016. Perhaps just as famous as his play on field is the "Yeah, here we go" cadence that he's been using to snap the ball. Kind of goofy, I like it. When we talk about QBs who have been memes, I think out of the starters, there's no one higher on the list than Russell Wilson. Whether it's the Subway commercial, or the Let Russ Cook campaign, or the Broncos Country Let's Ride, or the "You gotta be unlimited" video, over the past few years especially, he seems to be constantly making rounds on social media. But memes aside, he was once on a clear Hall of Fame trajectory, easily a top 5 QB almost every year, but since leaving the Seahawks, he's had a rough go. I think people can be a bit too harsh on him, but it's still been far from his peak, and he's likely only got a few years left in his career. This might be the one up and down career to rule them all. From college walk-on, to Heisman winner, to first overall pick, to the best quarterback the Browns have ever drafted, to being discarded by the team, to getting benched by the Panthers, to reviving his career on a random Thursday night, and now being one of the better starters in the league on the Bucs. Where he can take the team from here, I'm not sure, but the one thing I'm not going to do is count Baker Mayfield out. We've seen a very small sample size of Michael Penix Jr. in the NFL, but so far so good. After 2 torn ACLs in college, Penix became a pure pocket passer, and a good one at that. We were all surprised though when he was drafted top 10 by the Falcons of all teams, who already had Kirk Cousins as their highly paid quarterback. Whether or not that was a good move, I suppose we'll find out the answer this season. Bryce Young is one of my favorite stories from 2024. The stats might not have directly shown it every week, but he started playing incredible ball around December, and that was coming off of playing so bad in his rookie season and first few games that he was straight up benched as the number 1 overall pick. That does not happen very often, especially in year 2, but to come back from that and be good is even more unlikely. Hopefully he can keep that up this season. I don't think I've ever had lower expectations for a team in QB than I do for Tyler Shough and the Saints. But honestly, that might play in their favor. They've got 17 games with nothing to lose, so go out there and prove that you might be better than what you showed in the mediocre ACC. He's a guy that has the tools but just needs to put it all together. That type of QB tends to either work very well or crash and burn. After an offseason of question marks, Matthew Stafford returns to Los Angeles in hopes of recapturing the Lombardi. And we might have already forgot, but they were actually pretty close to beating the eventual champs in the playoffs last year, so they can't be that far off. Stafford's definitely still got it, though with all the injuries that he's suffered, he's become an absolute statue in the pocket, and you just hope he can stay on the field. Avoid the injuries, and keep it up. When you think about it, Sam Darnold's career is oddly similar to the guy who was drafted 2 spots before him, Baker Mayfield. Both were shoved out of their first teams, joined the Panthers and got benched, and after a stint with an NFC West team, revived their careers. Darnold had an excellent season last year, but you do wonder how much of that was him and how much was the great coaching and receiving core in Minnesota. It'll be hard for him to match that now that he's with Seattle, but if he does, that would be incredible. The smallest QB in the NFL, Kyler was such a polarizing figure coming out of college among scouts that I remember seeing him mocked 32nd overall, but he wound up going number 1 because, man, he is electric. For a player his size, he's got a cannon of an arm, and when he gets on the move, he might look like a toddler running down the hallway, but he's about as hard as anyone in the NFL to tackle. The problem is he's just not consistently reaching his peak in games, which really hurts the team. When he does put it together though, the Cardinals are capable of stomping almost anyone in the league. The last pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, Brock Purdy came out of nowhere to become the 49ers starting quarterback. And while in that first season he definitely was just a good game manager, he thoroughly improved in year 2, throwing for 5,000 yards in a near MVP caliber run. And I know he's in a great system that's very QB friendly, but when you watch his best plays, they tend to be out of structure. He's a good improviser for a guy that doesn't have the strongest arm or fastest legs, but after a down year for him and the team in 2024, we'll have to see whether it was the start of a new negative trend. So that's every starting quarterback explained. We'll be back to NASCAR next week. Thanks for watching, everyone.